It's a modern myth that you can't mix God and science, or that you can't bring in anything supernatural into the realm of science. This is a modern myth, which is contradicted by the actual history of science. For example, if we go back to the time of Darwin in Europe, we find something very interesting. We find that there were different groups of scientists who were operating according to different worldviews. Now today, we have the idea that science can operate only according to one worldview, namely that matter is the only thing that exists and that we have to explain everything in terms of ordinary matter, operating in terms of known physical laws. That wasn't true in Europe at the time of Darwin. There was one group of scientists that was operating according to Platonic principles. The Greek philosopher Plato had the idea that there is a spiritual realm where there are Platonic forms that become manifested on the level of gross physical matter. The biologist Richard Owen, who was a contemporary of Darwin, was proposing that in his work. He proposed that there was some ideal animal form that existed on some higher level of reality that was manifest on our level of reality in different forms. And that's how he explained the diversity of different species. Meanwhile, in Europe, there were, in Germany in particular, a group of scientists who were called Naturphilosophs. They had the idea that there were subtle, vital principles connected with organisms that were responsible for the development of organisms and their diversity. Then, in the universities in England at the time of Darwin, there were many scientists who accepted the Christian theory of special creation, the idea that there is some supreme intelligent being who separately created each species. And then, of course, there were also scientists who were trying to find purely materialistic explanations for the origin of species, and Darwin was among them. So it was a very interesting situation in which you had scientists of different worldviews working on the same question, communicating with each other. And I think it's a very recent phenomenon that we've gotten the idea that science can only operate in terms of one worldview, the strictly materialistic, atheistic kind of worldview that is so prominent today. But I think there are signs that we're moving back in the direction that science was taking at the time of Darwin in Europe. I think we're beginning to see once more some diversity of worldviews in the realm of science. There are signs today that science is moving back in the direction of accepting scientists operating according to different worldviews that may involve something more than just gross physical matter operating according to known physical laws. For example, Dr. Brook at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology published a very interesting article in the scientific journal called Nature a couple of years ago. In this article, he pointed out that the scientific programs of artificial life and artificial intelligence were failing to produce anything that remotely resembles what even a 2 or 3 year old child can do. Now, if we have the idea that human beings or other life forms are simply combinations of chemicals, combinations of matter, then we should be able to duplicate their behaviors with our technology in the programs of artificial life and artificial intelligence. But we can't do that. So, Dr. Brooke questioned, why aren't we able to do this? Could it be that our computers aren't powerful enough? He said, no, that's not the problem. We've got really fast computers. Could it be that our computer programmers can't come up with the right programs? He said, no, we've got really good programmers too. So what's the problem? So the problem is this. There might be some extra sort of stuff in living systems beyond our current scientific understanding, and that's what we're missing. And what might that extra sort of stuff be? In this article in Nature, he proposed, among other things, some vital force or even a soul as being the missing element. So even many scientists today are starting to think, well, maybe we have to introduce new elements into our scientific worldview beyond simply matter.